All right, a couple more things to highlight for you out of this particular chapter, and it's really the role that stress plays in not only illness, which I already mentioned a little bit to you before, but when we talk about AIDS and cancer are both illnesses that it's not that stress creates these conditions, but certainly stress suppresses the immune functioning, for example, and when it does, then our susceptibility to some of these conditions increases considerably when we're exposed to even engaging in dangerous behaviors, sexual dangerous behaviors, for example, and the person then becomes immune deprived or immune compromised, and then they fall prey to some of these other conditions. The thing that I want to underline for you is that stress doesn't create cancer cells, but it does have this dramatic impact on compromising one's immune system, and the minute it's compromised, then perhaps the ability of the body to fight off foreign agents like cancer cells, or even to begin a cancer process, if you will, begins to dramatically increase. Another key area that we see also this occur is in the area of heart disease, and how it actually begins to develop as a result of that. When you think about it, the body has ramped up to keep up with the demands, and the cardiovascular system begins to be increasingly stressed out with the increased demands placed on it with stress. And so one of the key personality types, which you probably have heard before, is type A and type B type of personality types. And type A and type B, type A are people who are verbally aggressive, they're super motivated, very driven, very time conscious, and type B are more easygoing. And what we see with these different types of personalities is that we also see dramatic effects when it comes to handling stress and stress-related illness. And heart disease is one of these examples that type A personalities often have as a wake-up call that they are not taking care of themselves. And like I said, coronary issues begin to show up in greater levels within these issues. The thing to keep in mind is that if you think about the level of stress we experience, coronary heart disease is the leading killer in our country today. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other issues that come out as a result of coronary heart disease. As a matter of fact, it might actually be the symptom when we have other issues that come into play, like a family history of heart disease or hypertension, other risky behaviors like smoking and drinking that come into play as well and impact the outcomes here. So each of these are oftentimes stress relieving behaviors, at least that's the way the person sees them, and then they end up contributing to cardiovascular disease over time itself. The last thing I want to mention is this diagram up here to underscore for you, is that the stress, inflammation, and heart disease and depression all come out of what we do with our stressors themselves. And so we live under stress for a long period of time, and inflammation occurs because of the compromise of the immune system, and then we see depressive symptoms, or we might even see cardiac disease. The thing I wanted to comment on for you is our propensity for handling stress. And the reality is that at the age you're at, you're beginning to lay down patterns for handling stress. It seems as we grow older, we just develop more and more sophisticated patterns. And so either we tend to, like I mentioned before, is stuff all of these feelings or minimize them, which then leads to the depression and some of the psych disorders that are oftentimes related to stress, depression, anxiety that comes out of it. Or we also see an impact on in terms of the drivenness that people experience and the time consciousness, the demandingness that comes out of it, that oftentimes leads to the heart and cardiac disease that is an outcome of what we do with our stressor. So it's key to understand that we can engage in coping behaviors, unhealthy coping behaviors, that then lead to a variety of persistent stressors that come along with the actual coping behaviors themselves, that then release all of the stress hormones. So coping behaviors are related to persistent stressors related to those behaviors, that then releases the stress hormones on an ongoing basis, which it's one thing for those stress hormones to be released related to a stressful incident. It's another for them to be released over a lifetime. And then we see the Ans problems, headaches, psychosomatic things that I mentioned before. We see immune suppression, so we begin to see problems related to that, whether it's the cardiac disease or other things, or lupus sometimes might come in. Obviously, there's a hereditary component to it, and then obviously heart disease, which is also the outcome. So it all is a interrelated package. You can't really tease them apart from another, but it really is important to understand that when we begin to engage in less healthy behaviors like smoking and drinking, poor nutrition, poor sleep patterns, etc., in order to get certain things done, we're laying patterns in place which lead to further problems along the way in terms of coping with stress, that then leads to the outcomes that I mentioned down here in terms of immune suppression, ANS, autonomic nervous system effects, ulcers, high blood pressure, inflammation, etc., or the actual heart disease itself.